Hi there, welcome to Recap City. Today, I am going to share a 2022 American drama adventure movie titled Infinite Storm. Warning, spoilers ahead. Enjoy watching. The movie begins early in the morning. Our protagonist is a rescue volunteer named Pam who is waking up to get ready for work. It's a dark and cold morning, the sky is cloudy and you can feel the strong blow of wind while the radio warns everybody of an incoming storm, but Pam does not care at all. After having her breakfast, she gathers all her climbing equipment, making sure that she has everything she needs in any kind of emergency. She looks at her late daughter's picture with sadness, then leaves the house. She stops in a local diner where she talks with Dave. He tells her that he doesn't like the idea that she's climbing there alone, since there's no phone signal up there. He also added that he cannot accompany her because he's already retired after 30 years of climbing those trails daily. Dave also warns Pam of the incoming bad weather, and that it is dangerous for her to climb, but this does not convince her to change her mind. She can't cancel her climb today because it's a special day and she believes that the mountains are the best therapy since they listen well and they never talk back. Pam then makes her way to the mountain's foot, and it's almost 7 in the morning when she arrives there. She encounters 2 campers as she parks who are departing after spending 2 chilly nights there. It's odd that they haven't seen anyone else up there when there is still a car parked nearby. Pam starts climbing the path after putting on all of her gear and leaving a chart of her route on the windshield wipers in case of an emergency. She keeps her thoughts engaged by repeating a passage from Edward Abbey's Desert Solitaire as she first needs to traverse a woodland and a river. She doesn't care about the cold at all as she removes her sweatshirt when she finally reaches the trail that goes up. Walking is more challenging than it appears because of all the stones on the ground, and Pam trips over after one of her hiking staff breaks. Fortunately, she avoids injury, and before continuing, she stops for a drink, tapes up the staff, and takes note of the gloomy clouds gathering in the sky. Pam arrives in the mountain's snowy regions at about 10 in the morning after crossing another river. She pulls her jacket back so that she won't freeze in the cold. Even though the storm is approaching and the wind is already throwing snow in her face, Pam stays optimistic by taking breaks. She keeps warm by drinking hot chocolate, and adding special chains to her shoes will make the climb easier. By 10:30, the wind is so fierce that Pam has put on her whole gear. She has to sit behind rocks anytime she takes a break to avoid being blown away due to the strong wind. She encounters an intentionally constructed rock pile in a final stretch of the ascent and notices a shadow at the summit. Pam blasts her whistle to call their attention but receives no response. By this time, it is about 11 in the morning, so she isn't having a nice time. There are sneaker footprints in the snow, which will cause her further delay. Pam follows the tracks to see the person behind them while blowing her whistle and shouting a few phrases to be heard. However, she is so preoccupied with this that she fails to see a hole in the ground and falls in it. Pam makes a few attempts to climb out, but she continues falling back in, hurting her hands as she does so. She starts to consider giving up after blowing her whistle and nothing happens, but as soon as she closes her eyes, memories of her girls rush into her mind. Pam decides to try again after perceiving this as a sign and succeeds this time. She's about to drink some water to celebrate her effort. Sadly, though, her bottle is empty. After plugging the hole with branches of trees, she climbs the final section of the route and reaches the summit of the mountain by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There, she finds a man sitting in the snow freezing to death because he isn't wearing the proper gear. Pam tries to talk to him, explaining she works with the rescue team, but there's no reaction from the man, thus she decides to call him John. Getting him warm is the most important thing, so Pam takes off his clothes to rub his limbs and dresses him up with some of her own extra garments. She also covers him with a body bag until he regains consciousness, promising to get him out of here. By 1:38, the pair has started to make their way down the mountain. John can barely walk, and Pam must pick him up every time he trips. Once he's regained more clarity of mind, John begins saying he can't go back and tries to return to the mountain top, so Pam must make an extra effort to pull him along. By almost 3 in the afternoon, they are about to reach the edge of a cliff, so John uses the little energy he has to run and do what he has in mind. Fortunately, the snow cushions his fall, but he does hurt his leg when it hits a rock. Pam still refuses to leave him behind and helps him get out of the snow, causing John to scream as soon as she touches his leg. Half an hour later, the duo has managed to find rocks big enough to sit under and take a break. Pam has to stop John from eating snow because that will dehydrate him more, and tries to distract him by asking him if there is anyone waiting for him. John confesses he has a cat named Cat, and Pam chats a bit about pet preferences before insisting to get going again. 3:30 is late for this trail standards, and they need to get below the tree line before dark. They don't want to be up here when night falls and the temperature drops 20 degrees. By 5:30, they finally start seeing some trees. This area is pretty steep and John is quite tired, causing him to trip and roll down the hill, bumping into Pam and dragging her with him. With his mood getting worse, John once again says he can't keep going and tells Pam to leave him alone, but she refuses. Now that they're among the trees, the wind isn't hitting them on the face, so Pam takes the chance to take a closer look at John. Explaining she is a nurse, she offers him some pills, hot cocoa, and some chocolate before checking out his wounded ankle. It's swollen up a lot, thus Pam bandages it up and then covers it with her last pair of extra socks. Seeing Pam's jacket clearly now, John finally understands she is part of the rescue team, but he is disappointed to hear that the lack of signal here means there won't be a helicopter or backup coming. Thinking they aren't going to make it, John starts crying, but Pam promises him once again that she will take him home. Walking through the forest doesn't turn out to be as easy as it should because of John's ankle, and Pam has to keep him from falling asleep. By the time they reach the river, John can barely walk, so he has to cross the water by crawling on a fallen tree. Unfortunately, both John and the tree are wet and slippery, causing John to fall into the river and be dragged away by the water current. Pam follows the path next to the river, making it to the mouth by 6:10, meaning it's already pretty dark. Thinking she has failed, Pam begins crying, but then a noise alerts her of something in the water. It's John, who is barely unconscious and holding onto a rock. Pam doesn't hesitate to get into the pond to drag John out and hug him tightly, as both admit that had been pretty scary. By 7:13, the duo can see the road in the distance, and Pam encourages John to sing in order to forget the pain as she helps him to walk. She actually likes the song he chooses because it reminds her of her daughters. By 10:44, after John has put on the bag to stay warm, the pair is crossing the forest when Pam sees a car driving down the road. She runs after it to try to stop it and ask for help, but sadly, she isn't fast enough. John freaks out, thinking he's been abandoned, so when Pam finds him again, she needs to convince him once more that they have to keep moving. It is almost 11:30 when they finally reach the cars. Pam leaves John resting against the trunk while she starts the engine and turns on the heater, but instead of waiting, John runs to his own car and drives away. There's nothing she can do to stop him, so Pam returns home and quickly takes care of her body. After a stop at the toilet, she takes off her wet clothes and raids her fridge, which ends up with her taking a nap right there on the kitchen floor. When she wakes up sometime later, she takes a warm bath and finally allows herself to cry her heart out. That night, Pam dreams of the day she lost her daughters. She was woken up by a weird smell, and as soon as she realized it was a gas leak, she opened the window to take a clean breath. Afterward, she rushed to check on her children, but unfortunately, it was too late, they were both dead. Since then, Pam always leaves at least one window open, even in winter. 5 days later, Pam gets a message from Dave telling her to check the news. It turns out she's famous now. John has told the police his story, and journalists didn't take long to find out who the lone woman that saved the depressed man was, although John himself asked to remain anonymous. Pam hears her name on the radio and sees her pictures in various articles, but has no interest in contacting anyone for fame. She carries on with her routine of climbing up the mountain route as she waits for a call from the local police for an answer to her request. Sadly, their message is useless since John failed to include his true name or a phone number when he submitted his report. A reporter named Patrick visits Pam's house one day. She attempts to convince him that she is not the woman from the news, but Patrick doesn't believe her because he has seen her photo. Pam invites him inside and responds to his inquiries because she has no other option. She hasn't heard a word from John, and she doesn't believe it matters why he was wearing only a few layers of clothing on top of the mountain in November. Patrick seeks out John in the hopes that he might be able to tell Pam anything, but Pam believes that if John had anything he wanted to share with her, he would already have. Pam discovers John waiting for her when she visits Dave's cafe a few days later. He returns her clothing and requests that she continues to call him John and tells her that his ankle is getting well. He then finally explains what he was doing on top of that mountain. John lost his fiancée a year ago, and although he can describe her face, he now finds it difficult to picture it. Additionally, he started to ponder what death meant and where the dead go. When Pam found him, John had returned to the mountain to look for his girlfriend when he realized he didn't actually need to look because all he had to do was wait for her to find him. But instead of hearing her, John heard Pam, and he's thankful for that. Pam responds by sharing the story of how she lost her girls and admitting that at the time, she had also wished to put a stop to things like him. He then asks her whether it ever gets easier, and Pam reassures John that there is so much beauty even during a storm. Later that day, Pam revisits some memories of her daughters before hiking up the mountain again to see the sunset. The real Pam eventually brought up 4 kids. She relocated to the western United States at the age of 67 to work as a committed patrol volunteer in many national parks. Pam is often reminded by John that it just takes one person to make a difference in someone's life since he did in hers. Help us grow this channel. Subscribe for more videos every day. turn on notifications and leave a like and a comment. Thank you for watching. See you at the next one.